morning and welcome to another in our series of Advent reflections for Friday, the 2nd of December. I'm going to be looking this morning at the first reading from morning prayer, which is Isaiah chapter 44, verses 9 to 23. And as usual, if you want to pause the video and read through those verses, if you haven't already, then please do so. They're on the bottom of the screen there if you want to look them up. If you look at this passage of Isaiah right from the beginning, it is clear that God is talking about the subject of idolatry. In fact, if you look back at the preceding verses and indeed chapter, you'll see that God is making clear to the people of Israel, there is no one like him. In fact, he asks that question, who is like me? Idolatry then is a big problem. And from the very beginning of the passage from this morning, we can hear that. I'm just going to read a few verses from the beginning of our reading, which is verse 9 of chapter 44. All who make idols are nothing, and the thing they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind. They are ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol which can profit him nothing? He and his kind will be put to shame. Craftsmen are nothing but men. So the Lord tackling here the issue of making idols, humans making idols from earthly things, in this case from wood or stone or some other material. We need to remember, of course, in the ancient world that people did worship their gods, often represented by an idol, and in some cultures in the ancient Near East, what we would call today the Middle East, they believed that these figurines, these statues, these idols had some sort of power themselves, and they would keep their household gods in a special place in the home. And when we look back into the Old Testament, we see the story of how when Rachel takes her father's household gods, he chases after her to try and get them back. Such is his trust and amount of power he's placing in these gods that are in the shape of these idols. The Lord is very clear in this passage that these idols can't save you from anything. They're made by human hands from earthly things, and there is no power within them. And indeed, they cannot do anything to save you. They're worthless, and those who trust in these are trusting in something that cannot save them, that cannot intervene, and are in fact powerless to help with whatever situation they may find themselves in. It brings to mind, as we reflect during Advent on our lives and the things that we might need to address, are there idols in our life? What are people's idols today? Is an idol for someone something like the desire for money? Is money an idol, or the desire to earn more wealth, to be rich, an idol in people's lives? Is it material goods, as in the latest smartphone, the biggest and best house in the street, the finest clothes? So material things have become people's idol. Is it chasing after something that is so preoccupying people's thoughts that that's all they can focus on and think about? Essentially, the problem with any form of idolatry is that it is putting a block, it is putting a stumbling block between ourselves and God. God should be at the forefront of our minds. The Lord is the focus of our attention. It is to him who we turn for all that we need in this life. It is him who we trust to not just save us and in terms of our eternal soul, but to lead and guide us throughout our daily lives. If we start to idolize something, if something becomes an idol, then we are putting something in between our relationship with God. And if that thing starts to take precedence and consume our thoughts on a daily or weekly basis, then we need to question, actually, have we let that thing, whatever it may be, become an idol in our lives? And so as we reflect on this passage today, it's worth just examining in our own daily walk and living with the Lord, is there something that is become an idol? Is there something that has become a source of distraction to our Christian journey? And if so, we need to look at that, recognize what it is, and put it down or put it aside, or at the very least, reevaluate how that is affecting our relationship with the Lord. So, an important message from the passage this morning, and something we can all look at to see if there are things that we've put in the way with our relationship with God. And as I've said, if there are things that have become idols to us, whatever that may be. God bless you, and amen.